The UFC just capped off the first quarter of 2026 with an amazing event in Seattle, Washington, where Joe Pyfer defeated former middleweight champion Israel Adesanya in the main event. The event also saw signature performances by former flyweight champ Alexa Grasso, Yusri Belgarui, and Larian Douglas. But today, while we are going to talk about this event in a while, I want to also discuss all the events which took place in the first quarter and their implications as we move forward. Starting with Justin Gagey versus Paddy Pimblett at UFC 324 in January for the interim lightweight title. Of course, this was not a good showing for Paddy. When you come out of a fight and all you can talk about is how tough a fighter is, you know he's not had a good fight. He got dropped a bunch of times, took a bunch of damage. I don't think he'll be back anytime soon. Maybe if they do a pay-per-view card in London later in the year, he could be back. Justin Gagey is, of course, taking on Ilya Topuria at the White House card for the undisputed title. This was a great performance by him. Really sloppy fight, I must say, but this was a good start to the Paramount era, as it was an exciting fight, at least. Not from a technical standpoint, but from a casual viewer standpoint, it was a war. We saw the return of Sean O'Malley. Not a good fight. He did pick it up in the third round. Song Yadong was so passive throughout the fight. I think if he had pushed harder, he could have gotten the win over Sean O'Malley. But still, this is good for the UFC. They like Sean. Consider him a star, though I don't agree with that. And Waldo Cortez Acosta continued his ascent up the heavyweight division with a win over Derek Lewis. He is, of course, fighting Alexander Volkov soon in the co-main event of the Strickland versus Shimaev card. Natalia Silva beat Rose Namajunas. This was a lackluster fight. And of course, we saw the return of Arnold Allen versus Gene Silva. I think he looked phenomenal in the fight. Gene Silva landed the more telling shots, which won him this matchup, but it was a close fight. It was one of those close fights which had a clear winner, and the clear winner was Gene Silva. Arnold is taking on Melquizael Costa soon, and John Silva is calling for a title shot, which he obviously does not deserve. He lost to the guy who just lost to Volkanovski twice. As we go to the prelims, this was such an awful fight. Umar Nurmagomedov deserves a better dancing partner than what Davison Figueiredo turned out to be. He ran throughout the fight, and it was just a really terrible, terrible fight. And Umar was a minus 1400 favorite. Maybe he could have pushed a little bit more for the finish, but hey, a win is a win. Ateba Gautier goes to the first decision of his UFC career against Andrei Pulayev. I'm not sure what kind of impact this has on the stock of Ateba Gautier as we move forward. I really like him. Trains in the same gym as Lerone Murphy. Has really good boxing. We haven't really seen the complete game of Ateba Gautier yet, but it'll be exciting to see how his UFC career progresses. He of course has a matchup coming up against Ozzy Diaz soon, and we'll see what happens if he when he wins that match, because he is gonna win that by a brutal KO. Ozzy Diaz is definitely one of the worst fighters in the UFC. We'll see what maybe a Mansoor Abdul Malik matchup, who just lost to Yusri Belgurui in Seattle. We'll see what happens. Did get knocked out, so he might take a 6 month break or so. We'll see what happens. Nikita Krylov comes back after a couple of bad losses, gets the TKO win over a tough opponent in Modestus Bukauskas. Alex Perez KOs Charles Johnson. At this point, I think you're better off getting KO'd by Charles Johnson. Alex Perez might just have gone on a generational title run after this. I like Alex Perez. I think he's going to get a decently good matchup moving forward in the flyweight division. Maybe the winner of Steve Erceg versus Tim Elliott, which is coming up soon. Josh Hokett is a name I think they're looking to promote in the heavyweight division. He has a matchup with Curtis Blades coming up next. If he wins that, he's pretty much in the title conversation. The heavyweight division is absolutely trash. And if he's good enough to beat Curtis Blades, I think he is going to get some big matchups. Adam Fugit versus Ty Miller, both of them suck. Moving on. Alexander Volkanovski versus Lopez 2, UFC 325. Of course, Alex won this fight better than he won the first fight, because he did get knocked down in the second round of the first fight. But here he just schooled Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez did not have any success whatsoever. This was a really bad showing from Diego Lopez, because it showed that he can't make the necessary adjustments to defeat a complex fighter like Alexander Volkanovski. How good is Ilya Tapuria, by the way? And Diego Lopez really needs to buckle up. He has a match with Steve Garcia coming up, which I think he's going to win. I compare Diego Lopez a little bit like a Yiri. If you are not that good, he's gonna beat you. But I don't think, like, if Max Holloway was still at the in the featherweight division, I think he would beat Diego Lopez. He angles well. He moves off the center line. If you stand in the center line and box with Diego Lopez, he's gonna fuck you up. But if you move around a lot, I don't see him having the capability to track down a very light-footed fighter. Benoit Saint-Denis had a big win over Dan Hooker. He's on a 4-fight win streak. 3 ranked opponents back to back: Mauricio Rufy, Benil Dariush, and Dan Hooker. He did The first round was not the best looking round for him, in my opinion. He got caught with some body kicks, showed some really sloppy boxing as usual. He throws right hands with his left hand by his waist, but we'll see how far that gets him in the lightweight division. Crazy, man. Crazy how the sport works, because you can get so far up in the rankings with such obvious holes in your game. But Benoit Saint-Denis is super tough. We'll see what happens with him. I would like to see either him versus Max Holloway, or even him versus Arman Sarukian is a viable matchup. Initially, I was thinking that Arman would fight Charles Oliveira, but since Charles Oliveira just fought and Arman Sarukian will be looking for a matchup sometime soon, Benoit Saint-Denis has been super active in his recent run. And I think that's the next matchup which they'll make, and the winner of that fight was gonna get the title shot over the winner of Gaethje versus Tapuria. Mauricio Rufy knocked out Rafael Fiziev in his return after his loss to Benoit Saint-Denis. This was a good fight. Rafael Fiziev looked good, but I think he's too small for lightweight. Mauricio Rufy looked a weight class above him in this fight. Mauricio Rufy is a huge lightweight, and he knocked out Rafael Fiziev very impressively, had him hurt all over the place. He was literally squirming around in the octagon. Then he won. He won the fight. A very impressive performance and a new addition to his highlight reel. Taito Iwasa versus Talison Teixeira, one of the most abysmal looking matchups you'll ever see. I can't believe they're putting this in the main cards of pay per views. Dude, Dana White, this is your life's work, and this is the shit you're putting on the main cards of pay per views. I don't know what I truly believe that Dana White is not in charge anymore. He is just an employee. He's a figurehead. Who's putting these matchups together? Why is Taito Iwasa still in the UFC and you're cutting Jailton Almeida? You're cutting Martin Bude. These guys are not as bad as Taito Iwasa, and you're still keeping this guy around. He's freaking awful. Though he knocked down Cyril Gahn, which is so crazy. Quillan Salkild continues his descent up the lightweight division with a win over a tough guy like Jamie Mullarkey. Jamie Mullarkey did look good in this fight as well, but Quillan Salkild is just in a different phase of his career. His confidence is through the roof, and it shows in his performances. Nothing to talk about here. Torres Finney lost to Jacob Malkoon. I think they're going to cut him. Oban Elliott, I think he's a bit of a fan favorite, lost to Jonathan Mikalev by a submission. In his fight before this, he got dominated in the grappling by the Korean Mike Tyson. They call him the Korean Mike Tyson. And if you're getting submitted, and if you're getting dominated in the grappling by a known boxer, that's not a good look. In the early prelims, Khan Offley defeated Yija. I think this was a match where a lot of fighters thought that Yija won this, but doesn't really matter. Sungwoo Kim versus Dom Marfan. Anything? Nope. No standout performances here. We move on. Mario Batista versus Vinicius Oliveira. Mario Batista bounces back after his loss to Umar Nurmagomedov. when a fighter loses to a really good opponent, there are either they completely become a shell of themselves, like it happened to Bruno Silva after he lost to Alex Pereira, for example, or they bounce back in a big way, and that's exactly what Mario Batista did. Outgrappled Vinicius Oliveira. Outgrappling Vinicius Oliveira can't be easy. He's a huge featherweight. Apparently, he cuts 30-40 pounds to make the bantamweight division, and Mario Batista made it look pretty easy. Dominated Vinicius Oliveira, and the grappling, whatever stand-up sequences they had, was solid as well. And big things coming up for Mario Batista in the division. I think he's gonna get a Corey Sandhagen matchup soon, and we'll see how that works out. It's going to be great. It's going to be a great fight. Yeah, and if Mario Batista can beat Corey Sandhagen, then I think it's a one more win and a title shot. After, I think he's going to get maybe the loser of Marab versus Yan. We'll see, or maybe they can put Batista versus Sandhagen on the same card as Yan versus Marab 3, and that's going to line him up with the schedule of the champion, and that's always a good thing. Scheduling and timing is everything in this sport. Kyoji Horiguchi beats Amir Albazi easily. Amir Albazi has to be one of the worst ranked fighters in the UFC. Who has he beaten really? Just one robbery win over Kai Kara France. Prior to this, he fought Brandon Moreno, did nothing in that fight whatsoever, just got pieced up, and that's about it. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually cut Amir Albazi. Neither does he bring entertainment, nor does he win his fights. Jailton Almeida lost to Rizvan Kuniev. Uh, Jailton Almeida has, of course, been cut from the UFC since then. Very surprising move considering the fact how shallow the heavyweight division is. They could have at least kept Jailton Almeida around to beat up some flat blobs. But I think they do pay Jailton a decent amount of money, and they don't want to keep him around to, get a win over, say, Marcin Tibur. I don't think they're interested in that. They're not interested in paying for this guy to just stink up events again and again. Mikhail Oleksiejczuk beat Mark Andre Barrio in a barn burner fight. This was a really good fight. If you all haven't seen it, you all should definitely watch it. Really nice. Uh, UFC Fight Night Poland, please. Mikhail Oleksiejczuk is coming up. Ivo Barniewski is on the rise, who we'll talk about later. Mateusz Gamrot is already there, winning fights, has been in the rankings for a while. Mateusz Rambetsky is an amazing fighter. A few more European fighters on the card, and you're good to go. The retirement fight of Jan Blachowicz. Why not? UFC Fight Night Poland. Poland is probably the best country in Europe for fighters at the moment, even though it would seem like England is dominating because they do have a champ at the moment, but Poland is amazing country for fighters. Fard Basharat beat Gene Matsumoto. We'll see what they give him next. Maybe a fight over Ricky Simon, or Adrian Yanez. That would be good. Dustin Jacoby beat Julius Walker. This was a great performance by him. Dustin Jacoby is a former opponent of Alex Pereira in kickboxing. He's a really capable light heavyweight fighter, though his record might not suggest the same. I really like watching Jacoby fight. Donil Donchenko beat Alex Morono via decision. And yeah, that's not a good look. Daniil Donchenko is seen as a bit of a prospect. And if you're taking Alex Morono to decision in 2026, that I don't know how well that pans out for you moving forward, but it's good. It's good for young fighters to go to a decision at times. You need the capability to go 3 rounds, because at some point of time in a division like welterweight, you will run into some resistance and you will need to push through hard fights. Nope, no one gives a fuck. No one cares. Javed Basharat has been cut from the UFC, by the way, after a win, which is weird, but I guess they just thought he wasn't entertaining enough. Wang Kong beats Eduardo Mora. Muin Gafurov loses to Jake. Yeah, this guy is an exciting fighter coming up in the UFC. He had a good fight against Patchy Mix, in my opinion. Good fight against Muin Gafurov. Submitted him at 4 minutes 59 seconds of round number 3. He was already winning the fight. Got good takedowns, and maybe he can fight the winner of Rafael Esteban versus Ethan Ewing, which is coming up soon. I think it's this weekend. Claudia Segula beat Priscilla Caquera, and no one cares. Obviously, no one cares. Come on. Sean Strickland beat Anthony Hernandez via TKO, looked amazing in this fight, shucked off the takedowns, beat him up on the feet, and TKO'd him with a knee to the body. Actually, I think the knee to the body started the finishing sequence, and then he swarmed on him. Good to see that Sean Strickland has the finishing instincts. We haven't seen him get a memorable finish in a while. He finished Abu Smagomedov a while back. I think it's been 2 or 3 years since that. Since then, he has had some lackluster performances. The second fight with Dricus, the fight with Paulo Costa, the first fight with Dricus was, of course, a really good fight. But that's because Dricus really brought it to Sean Strickland. Otherwise, Sean Strickland may have just have had another passive performance. But it's good. Strickland is fighting Chimaev for the title. Undeserved title shot. Obviously, it should have been Nasruddin Imavov. But yeah, Strickland is a good guy to have around the sport. He brings a lot of eyeballs to the sport with his antics, and that's always a good thing. We need such fighters right now, where the UFC marketing machine is sleeping on the job. Jeff Neal lost to Uros Medic. Brutal first round KO. I think they're trying to build up Uros Medic because they want to do a UFC fight night in Serbia, which is weird. They should be doing it in Poland. But I think Uros Medic is gonna get a big matchup next, possibly against Leon Edwards. They're gonna try and build him up as a capable European fighter. Dan Ige got knocked out by Melquizael Costa, the first time in his career that he has been TKO'd. The downfall of Dan Ige was pretty evident. If you watch that Pitbull fight, it was an abysmal fight, the worst fight Dan Ige has had in his entire career. Melquizael Costa has a matchup coming up against Arnold Allen, which I am favoring him to kind of win. He has a great kicking game. He's a good, capable grappler. I don't know how Julian Erosa took him to a decision, a comparative fight. But yeah, this guy is great. I love this guy. He's a really capable fighter. Sergey Spivak beat Ante Delija. Jacob Smith beat Josiah Harrell. I think they might give him a push up the rankings. We'll see what happens. Zachary Reese lost to Michel Pereira. Carlos Leal beat Chidi. Alibi Idris beat Ode. Yeah, nothing of. Yeah, Puna is a good upcoming fighter in the welterweight division. Maybe he can get a good matchup next, depending on this. Maybe a returning D Rod could fight him. Maybe he could fight the winner of Yaroslav Amosov versus Joel Alvarez, which just got announced. We'll see what happens. Nothing of note here. Yeah, we move on. Loner Kavanagh beats Brandon Moreno in Mexico at elevation on short notice. This was a standout performance by Loner Kavanagh. Chewed up the leg, landed good strikes on the feet, knocked down Brandon Moreno once or twice. And Brandon Moreno just didn't do much in the fight except hold Loner Kavanagh up against the cage. I think Loner Kavanagh pretty much won every round. You could give Brandon Moreno some of the rounds, but it was not enough. And I think Brandon Moreno should fight Asu Almabayev next. I think that's a good matchup for him to see if he still has what it takes to take on these upcoming flyweight prospects. He's a pretty young guy himself. I think he's the same age as Asu Almabayev, though he's been in the UFC for a really long time. And big things ahead for Loner Cavan. I wouldn't mind seeing a matchup against him versus Brandon Royval, or even him versus Alex Perez is not bad. Like, just because a young prospect has had a good win doesn't mean you elevate him up the rankings suddenly. Build him up. Loner Kavanagh is an amazing young prospect in the flyweight division, and I can see big things for him. Maybe he's a upcoming world champion. We'll see. Marlon Chito Vera lost in the same manner in which he's lost his last 3 or 4 fights. Super passive. He wins the third round. No one cares. David Martinez, I don't think he's gonna be much in the bantamweight division. It's just that he got couple of lucky wins, like a couple of good matchups, I would say, against fighters who are declining. I think when he runs into someone who's actually on the ascent, maybe an Ethan Ewing can beat him easily. A Malcolm Wellmaker can should be able to beat him easily. We see what happens. I'm not impressed with David Martinez, but I'm so unhappy with Marlon Vera. The guy was even seen as a capable grappler in the beginning of his career. Doesn't grapple anymore. No bad intentions behind his shots. He just plods around the octagon and lets the fight get away from him. Not good. Not a good look for Marlon Vera. I don't. I think the UFC might cut him. Daniel Zellhuber can't fight at all either. He also deserves to be cut by the UFC, and this has really put into mind put a doubt in my mind about the capability of Esteban Ribovics. How the fuck are you taking this guy to a split decision? How are you getting knocked down by him? He can't even touch a 40-year-old Bobby Green. Bobby Green pieced him up, beat him easily. Not a competitive fight whatsoever. Daniel Zellhuber swinging at thin air, and Bobby Green catches him and beats him up. Edgar Sheres beats Felipe Boons, cut Felipe Boons from the UFC. Edgar Sheres is a capable fighter. Went to a good decision with Joshua Van, which Felipe Boons did too, but the Edgar Sheres fight was a lot more competitive. He has a matchup coming up against Bruno Silva, and I think if he wins that, he's gonna get a jump up in the a shot to fight in the rankings. We'll see. Nothing much to see here. Were there any standout fighters here? No. This was a fight card with a bunch of mismatches. By the way, the UFC really needs to be more careful about their matchmaking because some of these fights are not competitive whatsoever. Why are you giving Francis Marshall Eric Silva? Give him someone better, please. And we move on. This was not a good card. So the first quarter of 2026 also marked the death of the BMF title. This title means nothing anymore. It was already dead in the water, which but they had to keep it alive so they could put up these fights as the main events of pay-per-views. But fuck that shit. I think Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway could have been the main event of a pay-per-view regardless. They don't need some made-up title around to make these guys fight each other. Charles Oliveira, of course, he dominates Max Holloway with the grappling easily. How is Max not prepared for those takedowns of Charles Oliveira's beyond me? Such an experienced fighter, one of the best fighters in UFC history, and he has no clue how to defend those takedowns. Lost as a favorite, and Charles Oliveira, not only did he beat him in the grappling, when he got on the feet, Charles Oliveira, in the last moments when Max Holloway did the point down, Charles Oliveira actually smacked him with a good right hand, which Holloway went like, whoa. So, yeah, not a good look for Max, but he's still a really, really viable contender in the division. 2 or 3 wins, he could be back. He's not that old. I think he's 34. So we'll see what happens next. Big things for Charles Oliveira, of course. Matchup against Arman Sarukian should be it, but I don't think it's gonna happen because he, of course, went to a 5 round decision, which took a lot out of him. Arman Sarukian will be looking for a matchup soon. We'll see what the UFC does. Caio Borralho versus Reiner Dorado as the co-main event of UFC 326 was not a good fight. Both of them looked abysmal. Caio Borralho cheated. He grabbed the cage while Rainier Dorado was trying to take him down. Rainier Dorado looked so open on the feet. I think a good, capable striker, a Jared Cannonier, would have caught him on the chin at least 4 to 5 times and put him away, in my opinion. Though he's really tough, he really needs to make a decision as to whether he wants to stay in the division, in the middleweight division, or move up to light heavyweight. Caio Borralho might have a Joe Pyfer match next, or maybe if they like him, they could give him Izzy as well to build a name off of him. Though I don't think Izzy should take this fight at the moment. We'll see what happens. Rob Font lost a boring decision to Raul Rosas Jr. Raul Rosas Jr.'s striking is suspect, but he is a good grappler. And yeah, this is just how he fights. Drew Dober beat Michael Johnson with an amazing KO. This was probably the performance of the night. It also got performance of the night. One of the most memorable moments of this fight card. This was also not a really good fight card in my view. Bunch of decisions, bunch of boring fights. But Drew Dober and Gregory Robocop Rodriguez definitely elevated this event with their performances. Gregory Rodriguez gets revenge for his KO loss to Bruno Ferreira by KOing him brutally. And Gregory Rodriguez should also get a big matchup next. We'll see who they give him. Maybe he gets the easy fight or the Joe Pyfer fight. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Cody Garbrandt beat Xiaolong by doing pretty much nothing, by getting kicked in the nuts, I guess. Cody Garbrandt is, of course, going to get knocked out by somebody in his next fight. We'll see what happens. Dante Johnson beat Cody Brundage by a split decision. Dante Johnson they need to put a break on the rise of Dante Johnson. I think he was seen as some sort of a prospect. But yeah, this was not a good performance by him. Alberto Montez looked good in his win over Ricky Tercios. I think he's a credible name in the featherweight division as well. Niam Jargal Tomendem Burrell beat Cody Durden. Cody Durden is probably going to get cut from the UFC. How did this guy beat Charles Johnson? We'll never know. And yeah, fuck, this was a bad look for him. Really bad look for him, actually. Su Mudwerji beat Jesus Aguilar. I like Su Mudwerji. He's a good fighter. TR Nergoje beat Rafael Tobias. And Rodolfo Bulato actually got a big KO win over Luke Fernandez. This was a great performance by him. After that embarrassing look against Paul Craig, he bounces back, puts himself on the map again. They'll probably give him a decent name in the unranked area of the light heavyweight division next. We'll see where this goes. Kevin El Chino Vallejos with an amazing win over Josh Emmett. He was a huge favorite and he made himself look like he was a huge favorite by getting the knockout in the first round. He did his job. Big things up for him next. I think they should do the John Silva rematch next. I think he's ready for it. We'll see where it goes. John Silva, of course, doesn't deserve a title shot. Yair Rodriguez never fights. He's still ranked highly in the featherweight division. The UFC should cut Yair Rodriguez. Obviously, we'll see what happens. They might even just build up Kevin Vallejos a bit. Give him the winner of Aaron Pico versus Pitbull, which is coming up soon. Julian Robertson beat Amanda Lemos in the co-main event. Jillian Robertson is possible. It's possible that she does fight for the strawweight title next if Zhang Weili isn't ready for whatever reason. Who gives a shit? Jose Miguel Delgado beat Andre Fili. Good performance by him. Split decision win over Andre Fili isn't that impressive at this point, but Andre Fili is a capable featherweight fighter with a ton of experience. And for a guy like Jose Miguel Delgado, this is a good name to have on his resume. Really good name to have on his resume. Marwan Rahiki beat Harry Hardwick. Marwan Rahiki is one of my favorite upcoming fighters in the UFC right now. If you haven't checked out his Contender Series fight, I highly recommend you do so. He got knocked down all over the place in the first round, showed amazing survivability, came back and beat his opponent. I think his name was Kwamba or something. Great guy to look. He's must-watch television. Ion Kutlaba is making somewhat of a comeback in the light heavyweight division. Beats Umar Sai by a submission. Charles Johnson beats Bruno Silva by a split decision. I don't think this should have been a split. Charles Johnson definitely won this fight. Some people say Bruno Silva did, but I'm not sure I agree. Charles Johnson might get a big matchup in the flyweight division next. If Kai Kara France returns anytime soon, maybe that could be a good matchup. They might just give him Brandon Moreno next, maybe Asu Almabayev. We'll see how the UFC wants this to play out. Charles Johnson has huge wins in the division with wins over Loner Kavanaugh and Joshua Van. So we'll see what they do with him next. He's a bit old for the flyweight division, though. He's like 35, 36 years old. Still a great fighter. We'll see where they take him. Bruno Silva, of course, has a matchup coming up against Edgar Shearez. Mike Techbeck oral by breaks the takedown record versus Chris Curtis. This is the second time in a row that he's beating a middleweight coming down to lightweight, to welterweight. In his last fight, he KO'd Jack Manson. And Mike Techbeck oral by definitely deserves a good opponent next. He also has a win over this guy. What's his name? Uros Medic, who is currently ranked in the welterweight division. So that's definitely a win that has aged well. And yeah, Vitor Petrino beats Steven Asplund. Vitor Petrino is a good name to have in the heavyweight division at the moment, which is so freaking shallow. We can see Vitor Petrino fighting some decent names next, I guess. I don't even know who's decent at heavyweight at the moment. For all you know, he might just fight the loser of Volkov versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. He might just fight the loser or the winner of Chris Curtis versus Rizwan Kuniev. Not much going on in the heavyweight division at the moment. We don't know how it's gonna go. The championship scene is, of course, in a complete logjam at the moment. We'll see what happens. Elijah Smith beat Su Yong Yu. Elijah Smith is a good upcoming fighter. Bolagioki lost to Manuel Souza. Eric Anders retired with a win over Brad Tavares. Nothing much to talk about here. Moving on. Evloev had a really weird performance against Lerone Murphy. It was such a strange fight. I think Lerone Murphy should have won this fight actually. I think he won the first 3 rounds, at least that's what I thought in real time. Looking back at it, the third round was really close. At the very least, it should have been a draw. I don't know how they gave how Evloev won this fight, but it's good that he did, because if this fight ended in a draw, we would have probably seen Gene Silva getting the next title shot, which he of course doesn't deserve. And considering how much the UFC loves Diego Lopez, they might just have made Volkanovski versus Lopez 3, and we would all be so excited for that, right? So yeah, it's good. Evloev won. Weird fight. Lerone Murphy should be back soon. Maybe he gets the fight with Kevin Vallejos. Movzar, of course, will fight Alexander Volkanovski next. I think we should register a protest if he doesn't, because at the end of the day, meritocracy should trump over all else. Luke Riley beats a capable fighter in Michael Aswell Jr. I think he's a really good upcoming fighter in the featherweight division. I'm really high on this guy. Shown some really great striking. Beating Bogdan Grad in your debut is not easy, and he did that with flying colors. Now goes to a decision with Michael Aswell Jr. Shows that he can go 3 rounds at a good pace, which is always great to see from a young fighter. Michael Venom Page has one of the most boring fights ever with Sam Patterson. He wins, and that's all I gotta say. I don't want to say anything. I mean, there's nothing much to say. Nothing much happened in this fight. Either of them could have got the win. How are you getting this opportunity to fight in front of your hometown crowd in London and not making full use of it? And then you're acting as if, oh, I can't. I don't know, if the opponent doesn't want to fight, I can't make. Dude, you don't want to fight. You don't want to fucking fight. Moving on. Ivo Baranuski smokes Austin Lane with the first punch he throws in this fight. Put this guy on the UFC Fight Night Poland card. Create that card. It's gonna be epic. Polish fighters are some of the toughest mofos in the UFC today. In his UFC debut, Ivo Baranuski, of course, had that crazy 1.5 minute fight with Ibo Arslan. No, both of them got knocked down all over the place, and that was a crazy fight. Christian Leroy Duncan has the iffiest looking performance you'll ever see against Roman Dolidze. In my opinion, if you're a credible name, and if you have to be a credible name in the middleweight division, you got to knock Roman Dolidze out cold. How is CLD not doing that? His defense, his takedown defense is so suspect. Had his back taken for the entire third round against Roman, and Shameful stuff by Christian Leroy Duncan, but hey, he has to move up the middleweight rankings. He's number 11 or 12th now, and maybe a Jared Cannonier matchup is next, but awful performance. Danny Silva beats touted English prospect Curtis Campbell. Danny Silva is from a really good team, training with guys like Cub Swanson, Larian Douglas, and others. Curtis Campbell, hopefully he can bounce back from this, but Danny Silva is looking up to big things in the featherweight division. Dude, the featherweight unranked area of the featherweight division is so stacked. Why is Yair Rodriguez in the rankings? Why is Brian Ortega in the rankings? Arnold Allen should have also been taken out of the rankings. The guy is so inactive, though he's becoming active now. And this is just a bad look for the featherweight division where so many capable fighters. Danny Silva says he's broke. Why is Danny Silva broke? This guy always puts on decently fun scraps. His scrap with Kevin Vallejos was a good fight, in my opinion, though he got a bit of flack for it, but it was a really good performance against a really good prospect. And now, of course, he registers a TKO win here. Great showing by Danny Silva. Mason Jones versus Nick Jonas. I mean, Axel Sola was a great fight. Amazing. Got the fight of the night, of course. Probably one of the best fights we have seen in the first quarter of 2026. Jones wins this fight, but I think moving forward, he doesn't have much of a future in the lightweight division. I'm not gonna lie. You can't have the technical flaws that he has lunging forward with punches in the lightweight division. Someone is gonna knock you out cold. But hey, Benoit Saint-Denis made it all the way to the top of the division with these same mistakes. So why can't Mason Jones? He's a young fighter. He's just 30 years old, has a ton of experience already, has wins over Jeremy Stevens, Balaji Oki, and Axel Sola now. These are great wins to have. Axel Sola is a big lightweight, made his debut in the welterweight division of the UFC, and it's a great win to have. Nathaniel Wood beats the debuting Losan Keita. This was a good fight. If Nathaniel Wood had made it a little more clear, it would be better for him. He would be I think he would get a shot up the rankings, but it is what it is. Boring fight. How are they still keeping Antonio Trocoli around? Get rid of this guy. What are you doing, Dana White? What are you doing, man? This is your life's work and you're keeping Antonio Trocoli in your company? Shameful. Just shameful. This Shamrock guy loses to Abdul Karim Al Salwadi. Cheap shots him after the bell. Why are you doing that shit? You're just gonna get cut from the UFC. But yeah, you know the UFC is so biased. If they like a guy, they might just keep him around. Chanel Dyer might just be a credible name in the women's strawweight division, but yeah, who cares? And now we come to the latest event of the UFC's last quarter 2026. Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer. Pyfer gets an impressive second round TKO over Israel Adesanya, and Israel Adesanya needs to retire. I don't want to see Izzy become just some random schmuck fighting in the middle of the middleweight rankings. I don't want to see him lose to the likes of Shara Bullet, Michelle Pereira. Is that what we are looking at here? Nope. Israel Adesanya is his greatness deserves to be honored, and the best way for that would be get him. He needs to retire, keep his legacy somewhat intact. Joe Pyfer is, of course, going to be looking at huge things in the middleweight division now. Maybe even a matchup with Dricus, though that timing wise that won't work out. We'll see what they do with him. Maybe the loser of Strickland Chimaev is next for him. The timing for that should work out. Alexa Grasso knocks out and chokes out Macy Barber in the first round of their fight. Generational knockout for Alexa Grasso. She's back. I did not have much trust in her, but hey, she's saying she was recovering from injuries, and maybe I believe her. You know, she's a capable fighter. We all know that. Former flyweight champ. I hope Macy Barber is okay. That was a horrific looking knockout. And yeah, Hope she recovers. Michael Chiesa and Nico Price both retire. Thank God. Michael Chiesa is of course one of the most privileged fighters in the UFC. One layup after another. Court McGee, Max Griffin, Tony Ferguson in the last stages of his career, and now Nico Price. It's pathetic, really pathetic. Larian Douglas beats the shit out of Julian Erosa, knocks him out badly. Uh, Larian Douglas has the Ilya Topuria, Kevin Vallejo style, the bladed stance, the crisp boxing, great jab, knocked down Julian Erosa at least on 2 to 3 different occasions with the jab and TKO'd him badly. Yusri Belgarui beats the fuck out of Mansoor Abdul Malik, knocks him out with a knee to the body, but Mansoor Abdul Malik was done anyway. He was levels above Mansoor Abdul Malik, as I was saying before this fight. And big things for Yusri Belgarui next. Maybe a matchup against Rainier Derrida, UFC Rotterdam. Why not? Gonna be amazing. Terence McKinney beats Kyle Nelson in the first round. 24 seconds, not much to say here. Kyle Nelson, what are you doing? You take one punch, you're just standing frozen in front of Terence McKinney when you already know that he comes out hot in the first round. It's his home state. Of course, he's gonna come out hot. Move around, evade the punches. Terence McKinney is gonna get tired within 2 to 3 minutes, but nope. Oh fuck me. Ignacio Bahamondes loses to Tofik Musayev. Really abysmal. Tofik Musayev stopped the takedown twice by grabbing the cage, headbutted Ignacio Bahamondes while they were on the ground. Who the fuck are these refs? Why are they not getting investigated? They must be having family within these commissions, because there's no way someone, like, if I do such a bad job at my job, I'm gonna get fired. However, these refs keep on getting away with errors, event after event. No one cares. Dan Mergliotta, Mark Goddard, whoever the fuck was the referee of this fight should be fucking ashamed of themselves. Chase Hooper loses to Lance Gibson Jr. He's in a tough spot in his career at the moment, coming off 2 brutal knockouts. I think he's too big for lightweight, but too malnutrition for. He's too big for featherweight, but too malnutrition for lightweight. So we'll see what happens with him. Not a good look. Not a good look at all. Marcin Tybura loses to Tyrell Fortune in the weirdest whip. They announced Marcin Tybura as the winner. They both all left the octagon, then they called them back and announced Tyrell Fortune as the winner. Really weird situation, but there have been a bunch of them in the UFC recently. Not this bad, but there have been some goof offs by the UFC recently. The Paramount era has seen some hiccups. Apparently, the broadcast went on going dark during the BMF title fight, and I don't know what to say. Casey O'Neill beat Gabriela Fernandez. She's back, I guess, though she's been very inactive in her career recently. Navajo Sterling beats Bruno Lopez. Round 2 TKO. Uh, Navajo Sterling is a credible name in the light heavyweight division now. We'll see what they do with him. Or Ricky Simone and Adrian Yanez. The judges rob Adrian Yanez of a pretty much. I think this fight should have been 29-28 decision, and this creates a lot of problem for Adrian Yanez. Adrian Yanez would have been back on track with this win over a good opponent like Ricky Simone, and now it's back to the drawing board for him. And Ricky Simone, he can beat some unranked fighters in the division, but if he faces anyone in the rankings, he's gonna get fucked up. And Alexia Tainara beats Bruna Brazil. Yeah, and I think Bruna Brazil will be disowned by the fighting nerds soon. They hate losers. So that was my review of the first quarter 2026. So excited about the second quarter. We'll see what happens. Huge matchups coming up. I'll see you soon.